Subscribe to the Evo India channel and click on the bell icon for your dose of the thrill of driving.
They've gone and made the grille bigger. Of course they've gone and made the grille bigger. It's what BMW does these days. This is the facelifted BMW X1. It's got a few tweaks on the outside, a few on the inside, and the engines are now BS6 compliant. Welcome to the Evo India review of the BMW X1 facelift. Let's dive right in. Let's start with the changes to the outside first. Obviously, the grille. It's now bigger and it's more blingy. It's now finished entirely in chrome. I know there are a lot of you that will like this change, but there are going to be a few of you that are going to be like, I'm not a fan of this. Sure. Something that the keen-eyed in you will notice is that this is now a joint grille. It's joined in the center. The pre-facelift car did not have this. The headlamps, they're new as well, and so are the bumpers. They're a little more aggressive than what they were before. There is also an M Sport variant of the X1. This is the X-Line variant. The M Sport variant has even more flared bumpers. Move over to the side and the X1 remains pretty much the same in profile. You get these 17-inch 5-spoke alloys which look quite cool. I don't know if you remember, the first generation of the X1, it didn't look very SUV-like. It looked more like a crossover. The second generation changed that, and that's the profile that you see here right now. Move over to the rear and you notice these L-shaped tail lamps. Now this is something BMW is doing across their new cars, and they've done it on the facelifted X1 as well. It adds a nice stance, I must say. Below that you've got the X1 badging, and on this side you've got the S-Drive 20D badge. Now if you're not sure, the S-Drive implies that this is a two-wheel drive car, front-wheel drive in the case of the X1, and the 20D badge means it's a 2-litre diesel engine. Let me tell you about something else that's very, very cool. These tailpipes. They're real tailpipes, not fake tailpipes. Good job, BMW. They've even made them 20 mm wider in diameter for the facelift to give the X1 a nicer, wider, rounder stance at the rear. In terms of the interiors, it pretty much resembles the pre-facelift X1. So you've got analog dials over here, no digital dials like in the new 3 Series. You've got a new screen here. It can be 8.8 inches or 10.25 inches depending on which variant of the X1 you pick, and it's controlled by the iDrive system, the rotary dial on the center console. The materials, the dash, everything's extremely premium. You've got metallic strip that runs the width of the dash. There's a 3-spoke steering wheel, again with paddles, and it all feels very expensive and very nice to use. Right, so I have to talk to you about the back seat of this car. This is how much knee room I get, and the seat is set to my driving setting actually. What's more impressive than the knee room though is how much space I have for my feet. The seat isn't actually mounted too low down, so I can tuck my feet in and I have enough room. Makes it quite comfortable. As for the seat back, it's not too upright. I'm quite comfortable, and I actually have a fair amount of under thigh support as well. You get this armrest. You can pack it away if you want 3 people in the back seat, or you can pull it down. You have 2 cup holders in here. It's actually very, very comfortable, the back seat of this car. You've got a massive panoramic sunroof, but you've only got air vents at the back. You don't have a separate climate control zone. Those are exclusively for the front seats. The BMW X1 comes with 2 engine options in India. They're both 2-litre engines. One is a petrol, one is a diesel. The petrol makes 189 horsepower and 280 Nm of torque. And what we're driving today is the diesel, 187 horsepower and 400 Nm of torque. If you remember clearly, the original X1, the first generation car, was based on a rear-wheel drive platform. However, the second generation car, when it came around, it switched to a front-wheel drive platform, and that's what we're driving today. It's got a diesel engine up front, a 2-litre diesel, and this engine is now BS6 compliant. It still puts out the same power as before. There's no changes there. it's made it to an 8-speed automatic, and overall the drivetrain feels like a solid package. The engine has got a twin scroll turbo. Not a twin turbo, it's a twin scroll turbo. What does it feel like on the move? It feels quick. This engine, it's got some real grunt. You really step on it and it hustles itself. The gearbox, it shifts quickly, it's extremely seamless, and you don't miss the fact that it's not a dual clutch. You've also got these paddle shifters with these lovely metal backs where you hold them. It feels really nice to shuffle up and down the gears using these paddles. When it comes to road noise, the cabin is very well isolated from the outside and you can barely hear what's happening. Other highlights of the BMW X1, the ride quality. The original first generation X1 used to ride a little stiff, but when they updated it to the second generation car, they softened it up and made it more usable. It's still very BMW in the fact that it'll go around a corner, it'll handle, but it's also more pliant and also handle the bad roads we have in India very well. The BMW X1 also comes with drive modes, so you can use these buttons here to switch between eco, comfort and sport. And what this does is basically change the throttle responses as well as the steering weight. This does not affect the suspension in any way because this is running steel springs and passive dampers. These aren't dynamic dampers. I've been driving this car in Ambi Valley since the morning and it's just so much fun. This punchy engine is complemented by the chassis so well. The roads here, they aren't the best. They're good, but they're not the best. So over the really bad patches, it feels like you can take them on. It doesn't feel like you need to baby it over them. There's a slight firm edge to it, but that's only over really big bumps. Over smaller bumps, you can actually hammer through them. And the steering, that's another highlight. It's typical BMW. Modern steerings are going soft and vague, and BMW has managed to keep some amount of feel in their steering wheel. There's a degree of torque steer when you really stamp on it. Remember, this is the front wheel drive variant, and it can get a bit unnerving if you're not expecting it, but it isn't all that bad once you know it's around. Well, that's the 80 km/h buzzer. That's going to be a standard feature in all these new cars. The brakes too, they're mighty fine. You stamp on them, they're progressive, they stop the car well. Overall, the BMW X1 feels like a really tight package. So what's the verdict on the BMW X1? Well, it remains a great car to drive. It's got a punchy motor, it's got good ride quality, and it remains a good handling car. If I had to criticize something about it, I'd say that the interiors aren't entirely up to date with the latest generation of BMW cars. But that said, it's still a comfortable interior and I'm just nitpicking there. The BMW X1 goes against the likes of the Volvo XC40. In fact, that's its only rival currently on sale in India. And the Volvo is only available with a petrol engine. When it comes to a diesel entry-level luxury SUV, the BMW X1 is going to remain unchallenged until Mercedes-Benz launches the GLA and Audi launches the Q3.